What's good, fam? Agent O here, and I've got a movie review, a superhero movie review for you guys today. I got a chance to see an early screening of Venom, so I wanted to take that opportunity to make a video about it and just throw in my 2 cents with everyone else's 2 cents that I'm sure is already flooding YouTube at the moment with everyone else's hot takes on the film. I want to first send a shout out to my friend Brandon for hooking me up with the early screening ticket, and yeah, let me catch this film. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump in this and start off with the review, and just first start off with talking about the cast and my thoughts on them, and starting off with the star Tom Hardy, aka Eddie Brock. His voice isn't as bad as the trailers made it out to be, at least for me. The trailers, it felt like they were cutting up his dialogue, almost like by the word, and just punching it in. And either that, or maybe they went back in the ADR after principal filming was done and fixed it there. I don't know, but it sounded a lot better, and he sounded more convincing in the film than he did in the trailers. I mean, the trailers, they made it sound pretty bad, almost to the point where I didn't want to see this movie, because he sounded like he had some kind of developmental disability, at least with his, or some kind of speech impediment. But that's not the case in the film. I know he's trying to get a New York accent off, because even though the character is living in San Francisco now, he was from New York, and so he's trying to get that accent off, and it works enough. It's just convincing enough. I think the fact that everybody got such a bad taste of his voice from the trailers, it's going to skew a lot of people's opinions and their perception of his delivery, because they've already have something to judge it off of, and they might be looking a little closer than they would be had they not had the trailers as a basis to jump off of. But he's convincing enough for this kind of film as a character, as Eddie Brock. He's funny when he needs to be. He's he has his points where his character is charismatic and tough, and he looked genuinely scared. He's a decent actor, so he worked with the material that he had. And let me start off, and let me tell you, it's not the greatest material, but I'll get more into that later on. Michelle Williams, who plays Eddie Brock's love interest, Anne Wang. Anybody who knows that name, Anne Wang, is if you read any of the Venom miniseries comics from the 90s, then you'll recognize that character. It's totally during that time when Venom was an anti-hero. So that's cool. I get that. I get why they went that way. Riz Ahmed, he plays Carlton Drake, who basically is a evil Elon Musk, basically. But like I said, this material, they don't give the actors enough with this material, because the villain, he's a straight up villain, but he's a generic villain. He's the villain we got back in the day with these Marvel films. He's not the villains that are complicated and that have layers to them, like Killmonger and Thanos and Ghost and Zemo and Loki. I mean, we've had or even in the Netflix MCU, like Kingpin has layers to him. He's an interesting character. Some of those villains aren't totally villainous, but this guy's just a straight up bad guy. And in a time where we've gotten decent villains, this is a step backwards. And so, but it's not the actor's fault. The actor does a pretty decent job. To me, he was convincing enough. His acting never felt so bad that it took me out of the film. I believed him when he was on screen as Carlton Drake, who's basically a technological wonder. He's super smart, He's got his own space program. That's why I say he's like an evil version of Elon Musk. But he does what he needs to do as his job as an actor. So as an actor he works. The character itself is just very basic. So there's not a whole lot of anything there. It's just, he's the bad guy and he's trying to get something done. He's trying to meet his objective, and he's doing it by any means necessary. Doesn't matter who gets hurt in the process, that sort of thing.
As far as the voice of Venom, I thought it was Lance Reddick, but I don't see him listed in the credits. If that's Tom Hardy, then his voice acting, I guess he should get credit for that too, because that doesn't sound like Hardy at all. In fact, he probably, if it is him, then he changed his voice, he changed his diction, the way he enunciates and delivers his lines to sound like a completely different character. So you should definitely get credit for that if that's him. Maybe they just didn't credit Lance Reddick, I don't know, but if that is Hardy, then he did a really good Lance Reddick impression, because that sounds just like him. I swear it sounds like him with a bunch of audio filters and distortion added to his voice to make it sound like somebody not of this planet or whatever. So yeah, he should definitely get credit for that.
The movie itself, if you're a fan of the comics and how the continuity plays out in the books, you may be mad about this film just because of how much it deviates and from the origin. And I get it. It was always in the back of my head as I was watching the film, so I had to kind of like with Black Panther, I had to separate my comic book knowledge from the movie and just watch it as a film, as a work of film. I had to watch it. I had to take myself out of it like that way. And the movie, it works on some points and it doesn't work on others. What doesn't work? Well, I'll talk about what works first. What worked for me the most was the action in the film. The action was actually structured pretty well. It was, you see everything that's going on. They actually used their imaginations. They pushed the action and the imagination with what Venom can do as a symbiote. I keep saying symbiote because of the way the doctor, Jenny Slate, who plays Dr. Dora Skirth, she says symbiote, and everybody made fun of it in the trailer. They didn't change it or anything for the movie because she still says symbiote. And so I keep saying it because it's still in my head that they didn't bother to correct it. Anyway, the action was actually done. It was imaginative. It looked better than what I saw in the trailer, the first actual trailer. I think maybe they fixed some things or something with like the motorcycle chase. That was actually pretty entertaining. Like I was saying earlier, they pushed it harder than I've seen in some actual legit MCU movies. Me and Strident had talked about how we both felt, Infinity War, they could have pushed the action and the imagination a lot harder than they did. And with this, they had Venom doing just about everything Venom does, aside from his optical camouflage ability. They actually never used that in the film, which is weird. I don't know why. But everything else, the tendrils, the strength, the agility, all that is there. All that is, and it's done really well. The CG, I mean, you can tell they spent money on the CG. It looks convincing enough, especially when the symbiotes are in their, they haven't bonded to a host yet, and they're just kind of moving around and flowing, and it doesn't look completely like liquid. It's kind of like they took inspiration from the Raimi Spider-Man 3 symbiote and the way they animated that, but they just did a lot more with it, because it looks thick and voluminous, and there's weight to it, and so it actually looks, to me, it looks good. I'm not a super hardcore stickler for CG. It doesn't have to look completely seamless for me, because sometimes if it sticks out a bit, that actually helps to its benefit for me, because it's like a symbiote is otherworldly. It doesn't look like it shouldn't look like anything I've ever seen on this planet, and so the fact that it looks a little out of place on screen, kind of, for me, it helps. I don't know about other people, but it helps for me. So I thought it worked. Venom, the way he moved, he had weight to him. He's a big hulking brute, so he moves fast, but when he lands, he sticks his landing, that kind of thing. I think they did a really good job with combining motion capture and animating his movements as well. I think they combined the two pretty well. I have no issues with that either. The biggest problem I have with this movie is the way the movie is structured, and I guess the lack of story. Because the movie is very fast paced. I mean, it just jumps right in. It jumps in it. It goes full throttle, and it's like that the whole time. And usually I don't have a problem with fast paced films, as long as there's enough story that you feel like you're getting a complete beginning, middle, and end. And in this film, it feels like there's parts of the film missing, where there would be development with characters and relationships or villain motivations. There kind of really isn't. The villain, like I said, he's pretty one note. He's about completing his objective. Doesn't matter how he does it. Doesn't matter if it violates morals and ethics, and that's him. And that's literally it. Like, there's nothing else to him. Same thing with Eddie. Eddie, he's on top of the world, and then he's not, and then he ends up with the symbiote. There's like I said, there was things missing in it. There's even a part in the film where apparently, like when Eddie gets the symbiote, they're at odds with each other at first, and then all of a sudden, time passes in the movie, and then bam, they're working together, and Venom wants to help protect the Earth because reasons, I guess. They don't ever really flesh out why the character has this change of heart. I know they're supposed to be doing an unrated version that's supposed to come out with the Blu-ray, so maybe they explain it in that, along with having all the other extra violent action that they probably wanted to put into the movie, but instead made it PG-13 so that more people would hopefully go see the film and they'd make more money. I don't know. It's just speculation at this point. I don't know what they're going to include in the home versions of the film, but to me, that's the part that damages this film the most, more so even than deviating from the origin, because I feel like if they were able to use Spider-Man, they would have included Spider-Man. But at the same time, I feel like one could argue that if you do include Spider-Man, then this doesn't become a movie about Venom. It doesn't become a movie about Eddie Brock. It becomes a movie about Spider-Man. I had made that point when we were talking about the film at the end while we were watching the credits, because Spider-Man is such a integral part of the origin of Venom that if you were to include him, he's going to have to take center stage in the film, and then it doesn't become a movie about Venom anymore. But that being said, I also believe that you could write it in a way that it would work, where it still is a Venom story, it still is an Eddie Brock story, even with the inclusion of Spider-Man. You just can't let Spider-Man be the main character and have Venom be the supporting character in his own movie. But like I said, if somebody's got a pen and they are smart enough and talented enough as a screenwriter, they could make it work. So I feel like you could argue both sides of that coin, and neither person would be wrong if they wanted to argue for or against. But that's me. Other people might feel different, and that's fine too. I would definitely love to hear anybody's differing opinions about it, so hit me up in the comment section below. But yeah, to me, that's the biggest problem of this film, is just the lack of story where story needed to be, and it doesn't feel like a movie that's almost 2 hours long. I thought it was an hour and a half long because we started at 7:30 and the credits were rolling at like a little after 9, and there were no trailers before the film. They had a little trivia thing at the beginning, and then they gave out some prizes, and then they started the movie, and it just started right up. So it felt short, and that's probably because of how fast-paced it was. But I feel like it's just lacking in due to the fact that we've gotten such good Marvel films that feel like they used their time wisely when it came to giving us the overarching plot, having the subplots with the characters and what they're going through and developing them, and then all leading up to the big climax at the end of the film. This film just doesn't feel like it hits on all those points. I hadn't read too many reviews on the movie because they're already out, but one of the people we were with had pointed out that the movie, if there were no MCU movies, this movie would be considered a good movie. But because we've had MCU movies that have really been resetting the bar of what you can do with a comic book film, this falls short. It feels outdated as a comic book film, because of some of the things they've done. And I think maybe, and it's not even because it's an origin film, because I don't mind origin films as much as other people do. Sure, it does feel formulaic, but that's because it's based off of a comic book, and a lot of comic book characters have similar origins. Either their parents died, or they were involved in some kind of science fiction-y accident, and then they get powers based off of it. So, of course you're gonna run into that. You're gonna run into the samey feel with a lot of those films. But this, in a time when we've gotten beyond that and we've reset the bar, they kind of have taken things back, and that's a shame, because this has the potential to be a good film and a good franchise if they were to do it right, if they would write it correctly, and hopefully I want to actually see them have a second chance and actually get the movie do well enough that people will want to see a sequel, and they'll actually be able to do it and correct their mistakes and actually make a better film. Plus, I want to see them involve Spider-Man, because to me, Venom isn't complete without that big white spider insignia on his chest. They need to have that, and they need to figure out a way to get Spider-Man or Tom Holland in the film somehow, so that we get that complete Venom package. And as far as spoilers, there are continuity. Like I said before, there are continuity problems, and there was the fight scene where it took place. There's snippets of it on the internet. There's a quickly edited version that was shown as a commercial teaser or whatever for the movie, where Venom's fighting a bunch of, police SWAT people, because there were police cars with flashing red and blue lights outside. So I don't know how they found him either.
but they just happen to find Venom at the news station that Eddie used to work at. So there's a fight scene there, and then all of a sudden Anne Wang just shows up. There's no explanation as to how she even knew to go there, because this takes place in the middle of the night. Nobody knows where Eddie is, but somehow the SWAT team and then later on, as the fight is just ending, Anne Wang just shows up, and there's, like I said, there's no explanation to it. So, you know, there's continuity problems, and I think that affects the pacing problem with the movie being so fast-paced. It took away probably where there would have been a lot of explanation for why things were even happening, and why character motivations were even factoring into the movie, because you don't get to see any of it. And like I said, that's an issue with the film, but that's about as spoilery as I feel like I need to get for this film. Everything else I've said and mentioned with the problems of the film are just can be explained without having to go into express detail with spoiling the movie. I think you can still get the gist of it without that.
One thing I will say is, though, that there aren't a whole lot of how do I put it? There aren't a whole lot of Easter eggs. There are some in there. If you're a fan of the comics, you'll see them and whatnot, and you'll know, but there's not enough that I think that was there to cater to the hardcore fan audience. Because I think with these kinds of movies, you have to hit the casuals, and you have to hit the hardcore audience as well, the comic book goers, the comic book readers, because they're part of why we're part of, I shouldn't say they're, because I'm one of them, we're a part of why we have this genre resurgence in the first place, you know. So, you know, don't leave us in the wind. My friend Brandon, he had pointed out, and he had made a really excellent point, that this movie is more for the casual comic book audience, and that's mainly due to the fact that they deviated so far from the origin. It's good. The origin that they did in this film is going to work for the casual audience and not so much for the hardcore audience. And like I said, in this day and age, you have to appease both. And Marvel and Disney, they've bridged that gap. They've done it to where both sides are very happy with their final product. So Sony needs to get on that same path, and they need to do better. They need to just do better. That being said, I don't really think I can add anything else that can be said about this film. I will say that you should definitely stick around there's 2 end credit scenes, and you should definitely stick around for them, because they're both worth it. Lately, Marvel has been kind of dropping the ball with some of these end credit sequences. Some of them are funny, like the one with Captain America at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming was funny, even though I feel like they shouldn't have made us wait all the way to the end of the fucking credits to see it. It was still good, though. It was a decent payoff, but I think they've been dropping the ball with that. And this movie actually had 2 good end credit scenes that were worth sticking around for, especially the second one. The first one I kind of knew was coming, just because I know the comics, so that was one of those things that comic book lovers are gonna like, if you're a fan of Venom and whatnot. But the second one, I was not expecting it at all, and although I'm happy I saw it, I'm also not happy I saw it, because I like to go into things with fresh eyes, and the fact that I saw what I saw in that second end credits scene, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil it, because it's worth seeing, and it's worth being surprised by what you see. It being surprised in the moment when you see it in the theater. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but y'all know me. If I see something I like, I don't need to see it anymore. I just need to go and watch it, the whole thing when it's done. And so what I saw had me pretty geeked for what's coming up, and yeah, it was definitely worth seeing. I know most people don't feel that way, so you'll definitely enjoy what you see, as you should. It's very, very good. But that's gonna pretty much do it. I got nothing else really to add. Hopefully this review piques your interest into going to see this movie, or if you already saw it, you've got your own thoughts and opinions, and which is what I always talk about whenever I do these reviews. See the movie for yourself, develop your own personal thoughts on it, and then watch these reviews and compare notes. That's what I do. I don't ever let anybody tell you what to think about a film or about anything. Formulate your own mind and be an individual, man. But anyway, if you liked what you heard, hit that like and subscribe button so I know that I'm doing a good job. Or if you got any constructive criticism, critiques, or comments, hit them up in the comments section below, and let's open up some dialogue and get to talking about the movie, what you liked, what you didn't like, all that, man, because I want to hear it all. I want to hear what other people thought. Also, hit the notification buttons to make sure that you're always getting my uploads when I upload them. And until the next movie or action figure review, I'll see you guys later. I'm Agent O, and I'm out. Peace.